What's up, guys? This is 001 Pod XV.
Numero
What are we calling it, Toasted?
Working title in progress. Right now, we're just going to call it the XV Pod.
XV Pod. I kind of like it. It's simple. It's pretty easy to remember, hopefully. Y'all give some feedback.
Yeah. 5 letters, easy to go.
But yeah, we're about to dive into why we're doing this in the first place. Chris, Why are we doing this?
Well, I mean, for one, we sit down and have these long talks, I mean, on a daily basis, at least one. And so we thought, why not record it, right? I mean, there's some really good stuff that come out of these talks we have together. And, I mean, we need to share it with everyone else. I feel like we've got all kinds of problem solving. I mean, trial and error is how we've lived our lives. So, like, why not put it out there and see if it can resonate with someone else and maybe help them through their struggles as well. So that's kind of the whole point of this. And it's really fun. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been on a podcast before, but it's pretty fun, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm having a blast. I mean, we have these conversations all the time, and I think that's really where the fuel and inspiration kind of comes from. Chris and I can have conversations, like you said, I don't know how many times a day, but I think what that does when you have an internal team versus doing things on your own is you can expand. When I was working by myself, I couldn't really get extra answers. You know, I was always questioning everything, but I didn't actually know how to move forward. And so these talks are so beneficial when you have like-minded people that are interested in the same kind of thing. You get a crazy kind of concept.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
the more brains you can put together to have a conversation, I feel like the better the outcome's always going to be. So,
and you get to be open-minded, right? So I think that kind of creates a whole different perspective on business as well as life of going, wait a minute, am I wrong? Am I right? Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea?
yeah.
And then you create the solution game.
Yeah. Constant questions, I mean, go on both of our brains every day. And I think that's why we're able to move forward past the struggle so well, is because we have each other to bounce those things off of. Like, we talk about it all the time. If it was just me or just you by yourself, like, you'd be constantly second guessing yourself. Like, you just get that confidence to really say no or yes to certain things and certain people at certain times. And that's really beneficial for both of us and our business, I feel like, personal and business.
And to spin off that, you know, I asked Chris's why, and, you know, guys, my birthday, I'm releasing this on my birthday, so my ass is old, but
Happy birthday, old man.
I know I'm getting there. But to kind of put in perspective what Chris just said is, you know, being confident with your answers. And, you know, all the way till 29, I'm about to be 30 is just, I am 30, I guess, because I'm doing this 2 days before. Anyways, I have so many excuses and I have lack of confidence in so many areas of doing things that I know I need to be doing, but I'm not doing them.
Yeah.
And that's truly why I personally am enjoying this podcast, is because I am finally getting uncomfortable again.
Yeah.
And making myself do the things I should have been doing a long time ago.
Yeah. And all these talks we have that go on for hours, I mean, we're essentially manifesting by recording, right? So we're putting all our thoughts on camera and recording it, and then we're putting it out there for the world. So, like, well, we better fucking do it, right? If we're talking about it and everyone's seeing it. So it's almost like getting out of our comfort zone and pushing us that much further, because, well, people want to see what we anticipate doing, I feel like, or I hope so.
I mean, that's the XV, right? What's the motto behind XV you created a long time ago, Chris?
Oh, God. I mean, we have a bunch, but, like,
It's not a brand.
Oh, it's not a brand. It's a movement.
And we really believe that. I mean, and not everybody believed us at first, but now it's interesting how many doors open, how many doors are getting built, and just joining the process. You know, we didn't really ask people to join. They just saw the hard work, the discipline, the grind, we're going to fucking make this shit happen.
I mean, I don't even think people see that.
I do, man. I mean, your Instagram, my Instagram, and then just people around know what we're doing without even telling anybody. The thing is, like,
That's
I just
true.
went on a trip, and everybody knew every detail about my life, even though I haven't heard from them in 8 years.
Yeah, that's true. People are watching.
People are listening, they're watching, they're observing, and, like, why aren't we sharing these things?
Yeah.
That's the part that just makes me so sick to myself, because I'm like,
I mean, both of us have lived like 4 lives at this point. You're 30, I'm 27.
oh, Chris is light speed. Y'all don't know Chris's story, but it's very fascinating. It's intriguing. It's actually just insane to me watching someone in so many different aspects of his life create better solutions, better systems in his life that are creating happiness and also doing what he loves. Like, y'all don't get to know Chris's story, but that'll soon come out when we do Chris's episode for the actual Threads episode. And I can't wait to actually dive into that, man, and kind of direct you into that documentary that we make for you.
I'm looking forward to it. And I know we've got like some interview takes from some of our past sets where we've sat down and you've asked me some questions or I've asked you some questions on camera, and God, I was so fat then.
Fat Toast.
Fat
Guys, y'all
Toasty.
don't know Fat Toast, but Toast has really taught me, even though he's 26, and I want to just say this right off the rip, is like, you who you are, no matter what age you are, I'm still learning from you.
Oh, wow.
And I know that's a weird thing to think about, and like I had to think about that when I was in high school. It's like I was a freshman, and I'm like, that person that I looked up to didn't even know that I was looking up to them.
Yeah, that's
Now
fair.
we've talked about this a little bit before, but like Adam Dingwell, like random name, not friends with him, like that guy outworked everybody, man. And I was like, man, that's the leader I want to be. You know what I mean? And so like even now, even though it's a senior to freshman in some aspects because you're younger than me, I still look up to you even though you might not even think because I'm older.
No, yeah, you told me that for the first time not too long ago, and I was like, wow, I mean, that's pretty cool for one, and then I didn't know I was having that sort of impact on some of the closest people around me.
I mean, dude, y'all don't know this as well, but like Chris, through all the craziness and the madness, which we'll dive into with production and threads and just mind development, Chris also decided he wanted to be a yoga instructor.
Yeah, out of nowhere, I just like, oh, I'm not busy enough. Like, let's put something else on the plate, right?
And
Why
that's
not?
where pressure creates diamonds, guys. And that's kind of where we've put ourselves in this uncomfortable position, uncomfortable situations, fly or fail. But really, what do you do with that? And like Chris has challenged himself in so many perspectives, dude. And it's inspired me in many ways to just keep pushing forward, dude. So I'm proud of you. So no more Fat Toast.
No more Fat Toast. Yeah, it's a joke, but like, it was real. I was 50 pounds heavier. I was upset with my life. I was sluggish. And I mean, I really wasn't pushing myself as much as I really knew I could or what I was capable of. So it sounds crazy, but losing that much weight, whatever it may be for you or someone else out there, is like, it's really motivating and life changing. I got my confidence for the first time, I feel like, in my whole life, in doing that. I mean, in
he
business,
was a star football player too, which is kind of nuts,
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but like I did pretty decent at sports in high school and tried to do it in college, didn't work out. But anyways, what I'm getting at is like I've never had that sort of confidence in business and personal and just regular life to have a conversation with people and share my story with them and maybe impact their lives. I mean, I barely put anything out there on social media these days, but the little that I do, I've had some interactions where people are like, wow, man, like, what did you do to get this? Like, how did you change your life? Or like, I'm applying what you did to my life and I'm seeing significant change. And it's like, that's the coolest thing. And we talk about it all the time. It's like, it's the people that make life so good. And that's where happiness comes from, is like impacting people and bettering their lives, and seeing it right in front of your face is like one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. And I've only got this much of it. I want to do it on a bigger scale. I think we both do, which is also kind of why we're doing this, is like maybe you pull one little nugget out of this that might help you live a better life or bring more happiness into your life. And that's really why we're doing this, I feel like.
And just to spin off that, you talk about the good people.
Yeah.
The bad people make a difference too.
They do. You learn more from bad people than good people.
And when I thought of this in a perspective of good and bad, what's the difference there? I have the option every day to be the good in one person's life. Chris is a yoga instructor, and one person shows up and he has an impact to change that one person based upon the good actions, the good human nature that he is. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
You learn from both sides of that. But if I'm going to be on the side that I want to win, I'm going to be the good person that reaches out to that one person when I am busy, when I am lazy. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and check.
Yeah, there's every excuse not to be, but
every excuse. And
you go against it, right?
That's my dirty 30 rule, is there's no fucking excuses.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, I'm living on a different chapter of discipline. I'm going to launch on something as well on this day as well, as Exclusive Shift 30. And that has changed my life. And Chris, I don't know what your feedback is without even me going into this. Like, what have you noticed out of that in the last 30 days of me?
You?
Yeah, like
for one, like fitness wise, I've just noticed you kind of getting yourself back into check of like where you really feel comfortable. Maybe not comfortable is the best word, but like okay, yeah, I got my mobility back. Like I'm moving in the right direction again. Because for a while, I mean, well, first of all, I've known Weston for,
10 years at least.
At least 10 years at
Sophomore
this point.
Sophomore high school.
So we've seen each other in all different aspects of life, from a friendship standpoint, family standpoint, business standpoint, roommate, business partner, all the above, right? We've seen each other go up, down, everywhere in between and come through it. So
One thing out of that though is I've always probably pretty much stayed in shape besides a couple
Yeah,
times.
and that's what I was getting at is like you've been shredded like as far as I've known you because you really make a point to have a consistent diet that's healthy and have a consistent workout regimen, right? And I mean, somewhere along the way, some of that kind of went out the door, you know, whether you're in a relationship or business takes over, like, or everything combined, right? And I've been there multiple times, right? And I saw you kind of go there. And so at least what I'm getting at is now I'm really seeing you overcome that and getting back to like, okay, I'm building the foundation of how I really want to live the rest of my life. And I'm going to be moving forward from here and getting better and better every single day. I mean, we have these talks of like, oh, I got this new podcast I'm listening to. It's told me this, and this, and like I'm listening to this audio book and I've learned these things and this is how we can apply them to our lives and our business. And I'm reaching out to coaches and people that can help us in business go the extra mile and do it the right way, build the right team. So like I just see this different drive behind you, and you're waking up a lot earlier than I am these days, which I need to work on. And like you're on it in the morning, like you're ready to go. I've just seen a different like hustle and drive out of you. And then also personally, like I've seen you come at difficult situations, whether it be friendship, relationship, and everything in between, really studying other people more than like the situation, right? If that makes sense. So studying other brain types, studying their reactions, and like how can we address this together and come out on the good side, because you know you care about the other person that you might have an issue with, right? It's not just I'm frustrated with this, like it needs to work like this. It's like, oh, let me put myself in their shoes more and figure out how we can come to a solution together and move forward from this because you really care about them. That's why you're having the conversation. So I don't know.
And I appreciate those things. And I think the biggest thing I'm doing right now is the wins. They're tiny.
Yeah.
But those tiny wins throughout the day are making major wins. And when you set yourself to win and you have opportunity to win, you win.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I used to wake up in the morning and, oh man, I don't really want to get up and walk. I don't really want to listen to this podcast. I'm too good for a podcast. I know everything. I used to have that mindset. I did. I used to have the pride and the ego and all those things that are attached to those. Like, I can't learn from someone. And now I force myself to study versus just listen and implement those actions. And that's been the biggest difference for my life, is like putting action to words.
Yeah.
And actually doing what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah, I missed that. But that is one thing that I've really noticed is like, because you're the most creative person I've ever met, and like you have constant ideas about this, that, and the other. But I guess earlier, like when we were younger, it was just a lot of ideas, not a whole lot of action. You've had action in some areas, but not as much follow through. Now, like I see you coming up with an idea and then putting steps in place to accomplish that.
Right.
Like more than ever.
That's the 4-step strategy that I've learned that I kind of have designed over podcasts and audiobooks and mentors and coaches in my life, is like, one, find the thing you're obsessed with.
Yeah.
What is that? And sometimes you don't know what that is. You know, you go to a buffet and you try new things. Well, that might be your favorite thing you never tried. And so you constantly have to create those things and give yourself opportunity, and then you find that obsession. So one, I guess technically it starts with obsession but ends with obsession. So one is the idea, 2 is the action, 3 is the discipline. And that's where my dirty 30 rule is.
I love it.
That's the third part that I can't seem to find the puzzle to, because that's been my problem and not efficient when it comes to the ideas.
Yeah.
So you have those 3 things, and then boom, you have obsessed. Right? People don't understand. People that are obsessed with things is why the world moves in a direction of progress.
True.
If people weren't obsessed with building houses, we'd live in the same house. If people weren't obsessed with cars, we'd still be walking. It's kind of a crazy concept, but the people that are actually obsessed with things, usually they're called crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, Elon Musk, right? Crazy.
Nuts.
Mark Zuckerberg. Crazy.
Nuts.
Right.
And like, I didn't really care about all that kind of stuff. I've been a sports guy. You've been a sports guy, but y'all don't know this. Chris is 10 times smarter than me, but like sports have been my whole life. And that's what I thought my whole life was based around. Thought that was your success. That's
absolutely
what you're known for.
People tell you that too. You're a big body. You can move well. You're good at sports. You need to do that.
And now that I'm 30, nobody gives a flying fuck.
No one gives a shit. Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
But then you look at, okay, an example, Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant. Y'all are psychopaths. And at first, y'all were stupid. Y'all were crazy. Y'all were ridiculous. All these things that people probably, stopped people from actually accomplishing their dreams.
Yeah.
And now they've created a success from it. They're the greatest. They're the GOATs.
Mm-hmm.
They're loved. Instead of at first you were fucking hated.
Most hated and most
Like,
loved.
That blows my mind. And
Yeah.
like going back to everything I've ever done, I've had all three of those things called at me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is going through his head? And I can't explain it, but if you jump in my head, you're going to be doing, all kind of crazy shit.
Well, I told you, like, I don't know, earlier this year, last year, like, it's cool to see that people are like actually listening to you and your crazy ideas, what you call it. And they're taking your advice because they are good ideas. Like, they're great ideas. They're creative as shit. They're ways that no one really thinks about doing, and people are paying you for those ideas now. Like, a lot of money, like good money. And that's pretty cool to see and be a part of,
Well, look at this, an example. Like, Rob Dyrdek's been my hero.
Yeah.
And when I close my eyes and I look at the studio and I look at what I have come up with in my head, also your brain attached to my brain and my brain attached to yours, we're creating a fantasy factory. And like, you look at Rob Dyrdek and people probably thought he was fucking nuts.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And now it's like, look who Rob Dyrdek is.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. You know what I mean?
Starts with an idea, and then you got to create a plan and then hit that goal, right?
Yeah. And so like me and Chris have a little bit different background when it comes to, this whole production side of things and creating companies and creating businesses. And now it's turned into the same thing. And once we accomplish that thing, then we go to the next thing, whether it's production, whether it's building houses, whether it's real estate, whether it's whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because we found systems in place to actually make things work. And that's probably the coolest thing, going through the process of doing it, but then also doing it with your friends that have similar missions and have that drive to continue to get better every day.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely. And this is like the coolest thing and the most impactful thing that I think you've ever done is like taking this crazy idea out of your head and making it a reality. I'm talking about the house studio that we're sitting in right now. You know, I mean, did you ever think 2 years ago, did you ever think this would be going on in your life? Would you be building a house out here and looking like this and taking something out of your brain and actually making it happen like this?
That's the thing. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Why would you? Why do you think you could actually do that? And in my head, I'm like, I have no other option. There's no reason why I would never do this.
Yeah.
When you first dig the pad and then you put the concrete on it, it's like, oh my God, my hard work of however many years at that point lays on this foundation.
Yeah.
And then you have, okay, now the foundation's done. Now the framing's in. And when I look at things and I look at life and I look at systems, your people in your life, I might be the concrete, Chris is the frame. Mm-hmm. And then you have all these other puzzle pieces that make this thing a whole. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's my fuel, man. I mean, putting puzzle pieces together. I know Chris loves puzzle pieces.
Oh yeah, I love a problem.
He loves a challenge, a problem, and he's a solutions guy. He can come up with any solution, and he's the most efficient with his solution. It might take him longer to figure it out, but I know in 3 hours, that's when we start.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm not designed that way. I'm like 15 minutes, I'm going nuts.
If Weston gives me a problem, as much as I want to just like throw it in the back of my brain for later, I'll probably stop what I'm doing and go find a solution. I don't know. That's just me. I just love it. That's where it all started, right before. So let's back it up. Back it up a little bit. Long story short, I was a mechanical engineer. Used to work for a defense contractor called L3 Harris, structural design engineer for a couple of years. I wasn't very happy. I wasn't happy at all, actually.
And it's Chris. This is another thing for my Dirty 30 that I want to implement into anybody and everybody at any time. Just be raw as fuck. Like, I want to get back to being raw, dude. And I want to hear your deep story of, if you're comfortable telling those kinds of things, because I've learned in my life, the more that I can open that hatch and let it go, and hopefully those other people sit in that same place can let it go.
Yeah. So I think I'll back it up a little bit further. So, I mean, I think a lot of people fall into this category of, you go to school for something, you think it's going to bring you happiness because you're going to get paid this amount of money and you're secure and you can grow a life and get married, have kids, buy a house. The American dream is what they call it, I guess. And I bought into that. At the same time, I didn't really know what to do with my life from high school up until I even picked up a camera. I just knew I was good at math, and I knew my brother did engineering, and I know that if he did it, well, I could do it too. We came out of the same person. So, so I had the same brain type, whatever. So that's why I did engineering. I didn't have a passion for it. I thought it was really cool, and I think it most applied to me as far as like a degree and all that stuff. But
I gotta stop you. First off, y'all don't know Chris. That is a monster on the football field. Guy's an athlete. His brother's an athlete. Whole world look at them as an athlete. And Chris, you can kind of talk about that a little bit. But
yeah,
like, you were doing it not for Chris Hinckley.
oh yeah,
So just dive into those little
yeah.
two
So
perspectives of what you've done in your life wasn't really for you.
so I thought my path in college was going to be playing football, and I thought I was going to get a scholarship, and I don't know if I really had aspirations to go to the NFL, but I was going to use my athletic ability to get a degree, to get a job, and so on and so forth. So I was a big body, I had a lot of muscle, and I had a decent amount of skill and athleticism. And so I thought that was me. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I should put all of my time into. And so that's what I did. I worked really hard at it in the summers, during football season, outside of football season, everything in between, was all focused around sports. Now, I really wish back then I would have just taken a pause and be like, is this bringing happiness into my life? Because if I'm going to be honest, every day I had practice on the field, I was dreading it. I hated it. I hated football
So why did you
practice.
do it?
Why did I do it? Because people told me I was good at it.
Bing dong.
I thought it was the only thing I could be really good at. I
It's
really
crazy.
did. I didn't
nuts.
even think about it. I wish I would have picked up a camera back then. And I might have not even liked that because I was so focused on getting good at football and getting a scholarship. I didn't even think about anything else. I didn't care about academics. I did okay, but I didn't realize I had a brain until I got to college and started really applying myself. So anyways, moving forward, I got a little scholarship at a Division II
He also
college.
snapped his wrist in half.
I snapped my wrist in half senior year. I had certain, colleges looking at me, but after that happened, they really stopped. And so,
Being humble, he had some big offers.
yeah, I mean,
Big
we don't,
colleges looking at him.
they're minor details at this point, don't fucking matter. But, I thought I was going to go D1, ended up going D2, and just miserable. I mean, I was drinking 4 days out of the week heavily. I mean, one night I woke up at like 4 a.m. in the lobby of my dorm, and I had 25 beer tabs in my pocket. And I was like, I don't even fucking know how I got here. I don't even know what I did last night. I don't know what happened to me. I mean, thank God I'm alive and not in a jail cell. And we'll get to that too. I mean, I got tickets out the ass in 3 months. Almost, I should have gone to jail. Should have had my license taken away. I was miserable. I was drinking to forget the situation I was in Thursday through Sunday and sometimes even Monday. And, I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I was the most unhappy I had ever been. I'd call Weston constantly. I'd call my mom. I'd call my brother. But I was still doing it, right? Like I never do anything less than 100%. So I was going through the motions, essentially just numb. And so I called my mom around Christmas and I was like, look, I don't know if I can do this. And when I came home for Christmas, I was like, I'm not going back. I can't do this anymore. Like if I go back, I will either drink myself to death or I will end up in a jail cell by the end of next semester.
And guys, just so you know, I remember Chris walking in because I pretty much lived at their house. I remember Chris walking in. He had his long, flowy ass hair, and he looked like he ate 2 pumpkins. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Chris was a super god. Like you got to understand. Yeah. Guy was a monster. I mean, he's 220, running a 4.6. Eating people alive at linebacker, and then literally however many months, 6 months go by, and I'm like.
Yeah.
It's like the scene from Thor where he was fucking swole and then he remember when they go pull Thor out and he's all fat?
Yeah.
That's literally the moment of Chris's life, and
Yeah.
I'm literally witnessing this. So
gained 35 pounds in 6 months, 100% beer weight and bad food.
lost the muscle in some ways. Like
Lost the muscle, lost the speed, lost the mobility, everything. It was horrible. And so I had to get out of there. And my mom, God bless her heart, she is so supportive in anything that I've ever wanted to do in my entire life. And so she worked really hard financially to get me to that position to go to college and for me to be like, look, I'm not going back.
how hard of that was a decision to you? Because most people would think that's an extremely difficult decision.
It was hard. I will say the decision was easy, but the thought process was hard to get there because I felt like, one, I was giving up, and then two, that I was failing. Because everyone saw me being a football player and like I was dreading just going back and being like, yeah, I don't play football anymore. And everyone's like, oh, I thought you were going to get a D1 scholarship. I thought even if you went D2, you were going to bump up to D1 next year and you'd have a full ride and all this other stuff. Like, I was an athlete in everyone else's eyes. That was it, as far as I know,
You're right.
because that's all I put out. And I was, I was a quiet kid. I really wasn't outspoken. I didn't have my confidence like I talked about earlier. All this came along way, way later in life.
So the pressure of that, how did that feel?
Oh, I mean, for one, I've had depression my entire life. It's a chemical imbalance inside of my brain, and I've been dealing with this since I was a child, specifically after my parents' divorce. So, I mean, with that expectation and with the depression going on at the same time, and then also like drinking on the weekends in high school, like, sorry, mom, but we partied hard on the weekends. So the combination of that was just horrible for my mental. Terrible. I mean, there were weekends where I would just sit in my bed and just be there the whole weekend and then go back to school on Monday and not talk to anyone until like probably Wednesday is really when I opened up. And then it was just that cycle over and over and over again. And so like the pressure of people expecting you to be this athlete on this certain level, and then all the internal issues I had and not really speaking about them to anyone and just holding it all inside for years and years. I mean, that's why it took me so long to get to that point where it's like, I'm going to take back my life. I'm going to make a few decisions for myself, and I'm going to remove myself from the situation because I know it's bad. And if I don't do it right now, it's going to be too late one day.
Wow.
And so that's why I made the decision to leave or not go back, essentially. And then the next week, my mom, she drove up with me to West Texas A&M. That's where I went to school. She packed all my stuff up with me. We drove home. I was like, look, I don't want to stop going to school. That's really not my motive here. I just need to get out of this situation. So I came home, moved in, found Texas A&M Commerce like an hour down the road. Thankfully, I applied within the 2 days I had left to actually get in for the next semester, got in, all my credits transferred, and I was like, good to go. So I was like, all right, I'm starting at ground zero again. I was miserable having to drive out there and back an hour. I was unhappy with my weight. So I started working out. I started eating better. Me and Weston got really close because he was living with me at the time. He helped me a lot through that tough situation. I actually don't know. It would have been much more difficult if I just came back and was on my own. But having him and being able to talk through these situations and joke around and go to the gym together and, just kind of like share each other's issues that we were having and our pain points at that time.
It's brotherhood.
It's a brotherhood. Yeah, we became tight-knit family after that, I would say. And we have been ever since. I mean, he's the closest person I've had in my life outside of my, immediate family, since I've been born. I've never had this type of relationship with anyone besides like my brother. So
Absolutely.
that's why I consider you my brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyways, getting back to the story, I made the decision to leave, went to school nearby, and then eventually went to University of Arkansas, did engineering there, graduated, and then I went to work for L3 Harris, as a structural engineer.
Super genius.
I thought that was it for me. I thought that was the start of the rest of my life. I thought I was going to grow within the business, get promotions, do better. I thought that was my end goal, right? Get married, have kids, get a house. I was miserable after 6 months into that job.
We were living together at that point, right?
We were. Yeah, we were living together for the first year I was in that job. And I don't know if you saw it, but I was in a different relationship at that time, which really wasn't good for me or her either.
At one point it was.
At one point it was. It just got to a bad state, and we really just didn't address certain things we should have. But long story short, I was miserable going to that job every day. I mean, this is what it looked
Guys,
like.
this is from Dallas. Are you about to mention that?
Yeah, I was about to say, we lived in Dallas together in an apartment. I worked in Greenville, Texas. There's an hour in between both of those places. So I'd wake up in the morning, drive an hour to work for 8-10 hours, drive an hour back, eat dinner, work out, go to sleep, repeat, 5 days a week, live for the weekends. And that was my life. And I got to a point where I sat down and I calculated these hours, and I was like, if I'm miserable going to this job 5 days out of the week and I'm only really living my life on these 2 days of the weekend, well, I'm losing out on like 70% of my life.
I remember you told me this, and I
I was
pretty
like,
much dropped everything out of my hands. It's
like, holy shit.
fuck. That's deep. That's impact.
I mean, that percentage might not be correct, but you get the gist of it. Like the
Well, no,
majority of your life,
you look at 7 hours of your day, you're not happy.
yeah, I mean, that's your whole day too,
And then
right?
you have 3 hours where you're at home.
Yeah.
You know, you're only maybe enjoying 3 hours at home every night.
And you're probably not enjoying it because you're just thinking about, fuck, I just worked 8-10 hours at something.
Right.
And then you got to get up and do it the next day. So like that's in your brain. And then you don't sleep, you don't get enough rest, and you're miserable, and you're eating bad stuff. You're sitting down at a desk all day looking at computers, draining yourself. Like there was no cell service in my office. There was no windows. You had to go through 4 gates and scan your badge just to get in. I mean, it was like working in a jail cell essentially. And then I looked down the hallway and I saw my boss who had been there for 30 years. And I was like, wait a second. He might be getting paid 30, 50K more than me or whatever it may be. He's working the same hours. He's got his own office, but he's down the hallway. I don't want to be down the hallway in 30 years. I want to be on top of a fucking skyscraper in 30 years. And I was like, he's probably miserable too as well. And
well, I would say some people love that life. I would say you have a bigger dream and aspirations to create a different life for yourself the way you want to write your book.
True.
Some people would have someone preferably write their own book and let them just do what they need to do.
Yeah, true. I guess that's true. But I think most people are okay with that situation and they find happiness out of just leaving work at work and going home and living their own life. Yeah, it's a safety net. But I think if they really examine themselves, there's something that they wish they would have done in their life at an earlier age and pursued that.
Right.
No one sits on their deathbed and is like, man, I wish I worked this 9 to 5 longer. Nobody.
That's a fact.
Absolutely no one. They think, wow, I wish I would have tried this business venture. I wish I would have traveled more. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have spent more time with my family or my friends and lived life, because when you're sitting on your deathbed, life looks really short.
Looking through a straw.
It looks really long. Yeah, looking through a straw. It looks really young when we're 27 and 30, but it looks really short when you're sitting on your deathbed. And so that put things into perspective for me. And as well, I thought about this, and this might be really, really dark, but if I were to die, or say I was given a month to live, what would I be doing different in my life? Well, one, I quit my fucking job. I'd stop getting on Instagram. I'd stop watching TV, and I would put all of my time into people.
Into life.
And so I was like,
I gotta stop, Chris. There's one conversation that I always bring up in the kitchen where Chris's mindset, tell him about it.
My mindset? Oh, it was all money driven. I wanted a big house. I wanted the cars. I wanted cash in the bank. Like
and why did you want that though? Like give a bubble.
I mean, I think I wanted it for one because I never had it, and like that was my end goal. My goal was to make a shitload of money. Like that was my goal. And then I realized that money isn't the thing that brings you happiness.
Tell him, Chris.
It's not what brings you happiness. It can give you relief, and you can find happiness in having those tools in order to do the things you want to do, for sure. But like if your end goal is making a shit ton of money, that's going to take you down a dark road, and you're going to end up alone and miserable. If your end goal is pursuing something that is beneficial to your life and others, and you have a positive mindset and you share that with other people and impact other people's lives, for one, the money will come, and two, you will be much more fulfilled when you are sitting on your deathbed.
Absolutely.
You know, like I quit my job because I didn't care about how much money I was getting paid. I told myself I'd rather be a bum on the street doing what I love every single day versus getting paid a shit ton of money and miserable walking into the office every single day. I was like, you could pay me $200,000 as an engineer. I probably still would have walked from that job.
I remember, and we had a lot of talks about it.
Yeah, it didn't matter how much they pay me to sit there and do that job. I would have left.
So it was interesting, guys. During all this happening, you know, I've been the person right next to him to understand his thoughts, his feelings, and really see where these tables turned. And it's interesting because he had a totally different mindset, and then life woke him up in so many different things, whether it was decisions, whether it was good shit, bad shit, and his whole life changed. So Chris, tell me a little bit in that shift when the tables turned right after all what you just said.
So things got good. Well, before I get to that point, I will say along that path, I picked up a camera. I bought my first camera off Weston. He sold me, one of his older cameras and a lens. I think a couple lenses actually.
An 80D?
A 70D.
70D.
Yeah, 70D, right? 70D, a kit lens, and then something else. And I messaged him. I was like, look, I just want to start capturing moments in my life, and I think I want a professional camera to do that. I want to learn. I'm just kind of intrigued by it at the moment. And he's like, oh, I've got this camera. I'll sell it to you for $400. Like, give it a shot. And so I was like, okay, cool, I'll buy it. And this was like right when I started my engineering job. So I kind of fiddle-fucked around with a camera for a while and was frustrated with how difficult it was. So I kind of put it down for 6 months, picked it back up, actually started shooting with it, learning the settings. Weston helped me with those. And then I saw my friends' engagement photos, and they took it on a GoPro with like 8 megapixel pictures. And I was like, this is dog shit. Y'all aren't going to look back one day and be like, wow, I remember this moment. Like, this is trash. So I've been getting pretty good at using a camera. You guys come to Dallas, I'll shoot your engagement photos. So they came in, we did the shoot, and I was in Lightroom editing, asking Weston 100 questions.
This is one of my favorite stories.
I was asking Weston
I had a big iMac, 27.5 inch.
Yeah, on Lightroom.
Chris was like, hey, man, how do I get rid of this pimple?
No, I was like, how do I make this guy's teeth whiter? Remember that?
I do remember that.
I was like, oh, God. So I was asking him all those detailed questions, and I had the photos edited like by the next day, basically. And literally the next day, Weston was out of town. I'm in the Mac store, and I call him, and I'm like, hey, man, like, I'm about to buy this iMac. I'm about to get an iPad. What programs do I need to get? Like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm just swiping my credit card for anything that I need to make this a reality. And from that moment on, that feeling never went away. That drive, that passion, waking up wanting to do this never went away. And this is the first thing I'd ever found in my life that I was like, wow, I'm actually driven to do this, and you don't even have to pay me money to do it. Like, I'll just fucking do it. If no one ever paid me a cent again to shoot a photo or a video, I don't care. I would still do it.
What does that mean to you, though?
What do you mean? What kind of question?
Like,
well, it means everything.
I always
to me.
say this in the perspective: if you love to do it, you never lose it.
Yeah.
If you'll continue to do it, there's no regret that you did something that you didn't want to do.
Yeah.
When you love something, you'll find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And you'll be obsessed with it. That goes back to the
obsession. Yeah. I had an obsession with this stuff, and that never went away. I mean, I would go to my job, come back home, be on YouTube for hours, go to bed, repeat. I would take off days, PTO, to go help Weston whenever, like, he was giving me an opportunity, basically. He didn't need my help, but he was, like, seeing what my ambition, my drive, and that I was really interested in this stuff. So he's like, hey, I got to shoot. Can you come on Thursday? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll take PTO for sure. I'll come help out and learn as much as I can. So I would do that for a year, and then it got to a point where I had a decent client that was wanting to pay me a good...
Shout out Jake Roach.
Yeah, shout out Jake Roach. I don't know. I didn't know if we wanted his name mentioned, but...
I only said that earlier because I don't want my...
Oh, okay. So Jake, he was doing hunting a lot and wanted to be like a hunting influencer. And so I went on a couple bird hunt shoots with him. He like loved my work. And we came up with some creative concepts like, what was that gig we used to do? Q&A Monday. Yeah, we used to do Q&A Monday. We just came up with that one late night, and it was kind of a hit. It was a good time. But anyways, he wanted to do this thing full time, wanted to go on these big game hunts, and wanted them filmed. And so he presented me with a business opportunity over a Christmas dinner with my family. Calls me up and he's like, hey man, I want to give you this amount of money for this amount of work. What do you think about this? And I was like, well, I want to do this, but I have to quit my job to do this. So if you're serious, I'll be serious and I'll take that next step. And he's like, yeah, I'm serious. Like, I want you to do this, and I'm going to pay you this amount of money. And so I was like, all right. 4 days later, put in my 2-week notice. When I go back to work, 2 weeks, I'm out. That quick.
I got a phone call.
Weston got a phone call probably right after I talked to Jake Roach. But like, I mean, that decision was so easy, and it sounds crazy because like walking away from $80,000 a year and a secure paycheck, all all the benefits behind it. You know, I'd worked 4 years in college plus an 8-month internship to get there. But walking away was the easiest decision I ever made.
That's rare though.
It's rare. And it's like I should have been well, a year later I looked back and I was like, wow, I'm actually nervous for myself in that moment. Just looking back and analyzing the situation, because it was a huge leap. I mean, I had no safety net. I didn't really have a whole lot of money saved up. I wasn't very good with my spending at that point. And I was,
Yes, he was.
I was
Don't let him
living,
fool you.
I was decent, but I spent too much. I lived off credit. I was buying camera equipment constantly,
You gotta
cameras.
invest, dude.
Yeah, you got to invest for sure. But like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was just taking a risk on myself because I was like, I know I love this. And if I have this drive to do this, and it's not going away, then I will get good at it.
Double up in it.
Because I've proved that in sports. I proved that in academia. So I was like, why would it not apply to this camera thing? So if I put more time into this, I know long term it's going to pay off and allow me to live the life that I want to do and give me all this free time, and eventually ended up being able to do it with my best friend.
And that's where this dives into a whole nother complex.
Oh, there's so many stories and pathways to get to where we are now. But like, I mean, that's my overall story of making that huge transition, that huge decision, and taking a chance on myself that paid off. Like, oh my God. I can't imagine if I was still in that same job right now. I think about it every day. I was like, God, I could.
Could be in a cubicle.
Could be in a cubicle.
That's
man.
Chris's line, guys. If y'all don't know.
Yeah.
And we're actually gonna do a really cool story behind that one day. That's gonna be pretty impactful. So
Yeah.
keep going, Chris. I'm gonna keep the listeners going.
I mean, I don't have too much more to say. We could go down a bunch of different roads as far as like mindset goes, but really, I'll just say that was the first real decision that I made for myself in my life.
How old were you?
I want to say I was like 24.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes sense. 24, because I was 2 years in. Yeah, 2 years into the business right after college. Yeah, I was about 24 years old, and I'm 27 now. It's crazy to think that was 3 years ago, because it feels like a lifetime ago.
And this is where I get to really brag about Chris. Not everybody knows Chris. He's quiet. He's humble. He's observant. And then when it's funny, because we talked about personality traits, we talk about brain tests, we talk about characteristics of people. Most people, I would probably say, 3% of people have that instant, this is an easy decision. We know a lot of other people that it's like, yeah, I want to do this, but I can't.
Talk about it, hesitation, all that.
When you dial in, I wish people would do this more and love yourself. But in order to love yourself, you got to be alone. You got to take that research. You got to develop your brain, and you got to rewire it the way you want to rewire it.
Mm-hmm.
And some people aren't designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
Some people aren't designed to be a risk taker, calculated risk taker, explorer, architect. There's so many different things, guys. And if y'all don't know about these, y'all should definitely do a deep dive and learn your personality trait of who you are today versus who you were in the past.
Yeah, it changes. It evolves.
Right, because most people hold a ball and chain to your leg, and I can't do this because of this. I don't know how many times I hear that.
Yeah.
And I laugh at it.
It's an excuse.
We had a call this morning from a guy that didn't graduate college.
Yeah.
Didn't graduate high school.
I was about to say high school, yeah.
And I hear that more than I hear, I graduated college and I'm this successful. Never hear it. And so you got to take these tests, figure out who you are, and then also develop the people around you and figure out who they are so that the system works.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Melvin mentioned this to me one time. He's like, can you pass the ball and shoot a layup at the same time?
Nope.
You can't. And when I look at life and I look at building businesses and strategies, what's a head coach for?
It's to guide the team, right?
Right? What's the point guard for?
Well, to lead the team.
Right? And so you have all these different positions and perspectives, and they all make sense. Right? And then you got the stands. Who's the stands, Chris?
Who's the stands? The sheep.
Yeah. They're sheep in their own perspective, but they're the people, the 97%, that are either judging you or telling you that you can't do something.
True.
When you get out of those stands and you get in the game, you and I both know there's no more stands.
Yeah.
I'm in the game.
Yeah.
All I can focus on is this. And that's what you got to separate from, is like, if you want to go do it, you got to get in a fucking game.
Get the fucking blinders on, right?
Blinders, earmuffs, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But you got to get around those people that actually believe in you and support and take that leap. And the leap can be very small and very minimal. but people feel like it's this massive gap. And some people take those massive gaps. You know me, I'm a massive gap guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't go in increments.
Visionary, right?
I don't. I fucking jump and I build myself and fly on the way down. Like, I don't know any other way.
Yeah.
It's my brain type.
I think that's why we work together so well.
Yeah, and so Chris is a very calculated risk taker, even though he is an extreme risk taker, because his decision making makes him a risk taker.
Yeah.
He knows when to pivot. He knows when to move. Me, on the other hand, I know when to move and pivot. Doesn't mean it's always correct, but I will push no matter what way I need to push to find a way to make it work.
You'll do it 100%.
150%. I don't know any different, right?
Yeah, every time.
And there's a book called Relentless. It's the personal trainer of Michael Jordan. And they have these different phases of kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Chris are cleaners. And cleaners mean we almost fiend to something that's harder. It's like the scrappier, oh yeah, I'm going to fucking crush this. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's more so like the job's hard. We almost want it harder.
Yeah, we like a challenge.
It's like, fuck, man. While everybody else is, I'm not going to do that. Nah. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get knee deep in mud and fucking run through this shit. I don't give a fuck.
Challenge accepted.
That's how my brain operates, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something that's interesting to watch the progression of Chris viewing his life, cutting it off, and rebuilding it. And I always use the term, you have to get broken down so much in order to rebuild.
Yeah.
Nothing gets stronger from phase 1. It always gets stronger on phase 2. When you knock it down, you rebuild it, and you get better structures, you get better equipment, and everything. And at that point, it gets broken down again.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Like, sometimes you got to start new, right? Sometimes you build a floor, right? And then you move to the next one, and you build it up a little bit, and you're like, fucked up. Start fresh, right? New floor. And then you go to the next one, right? And then same thing. And then it might get all knocked down at one point, and you got to start on a whole new pad because you need bigger space.
That's the craziness.
But that's okay. It's a part of life.
Well, that's the risk you take being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I think we wouldn't be able to live life any other way. I mean, I've tried the whole 9-to-5 thing, and it's just like, God, it's fucking terrible.
I mean, I lived a 9-to-5 in a different perspective doing construction.
Yeah.
Mine, and nobody knows my story in some perspective, but like.
Yeah, there's a whole story there.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's something it's 47 minutes already, so.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know if that makes sense to dive into that without that battery dying on the camera. But what I had to learn, and my dad's a fucking hard ass. I mean, Chris, you know more than anyone.
Stubborn bastard.
He is, but he's a hard-working motherfucker, and he gets shit done. I got to give him credit, and he's a pusher. I mean, he is.
He does. Yeah.
What I had to learn was like, am I working hard? In my head, I'm fucking running thousands of miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, I'm going 0.
True.
And I had to learn that the hard way. So when I did construction, man, it's like, if I can physically outwork you when it comes to construction, how do I implement this into something else? Right? Because I did the shit I didn't want to do. That's the hardest fucking thing in life, is waking up and doing shit you don't want to do. If you can get really fucking good at that, you're going to be great at the shit you want to do.
Yeah.
And so like I try to take that hard work ethic and challenge myself to keeping that same physical strength and just outwork. And it's way different in the production business.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But I know I can constantly create answers and solutions and move it in the same needle as long as I'm focused and efficient versus just being fucking busy.
Yeah, it's not hard physical work, but it's applicable to everything else. It's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, like I try to take the same thing and apply it to something new based on a work ethic, right? Like you can't get nothing done if you don't have a work ethic.
True.
Like you can't.
Yeah.
Unless you win the fucking lottery.
Yeah, which
what's the fucking odds of that, right?
Ain't happening.
So like that's something that I've seen with you is your efficiency has always really been there. You've just dialed it in and chipped away and made it even better.
Yeah, always. I mean, we try to get better with every project. I try to get more efficient with every project. We're constantly thinking about what can make shoots easier, edits easier, better programs to use, better equipment. How can we find better clients? How can we pitch ourselves better? How can we put ourselves out there to attract people to come and be a part of our team? Another reason for putting this stuff out there is like, we want to find more like-minded people that can have the same mission and values and goals in mind and come together, because that's what we need. That's what we want.
Right.
We just got to find those kinds of people.
And that's the thing, like I can't pronounce his last name.
Al Herrera.
Al Herrera. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Herrera.
Herrera. He asked me something. We hired a development coach and leadership coach the other day, and guys, y'all don't know my brain. Chris knows it, and it's sporadic. It's ridiculous. It's up. It's down. It's all over. And my goal now is to stay a lot more level when it comes to figuring those things out, which just creates a strategy. But like, what was my mission is what he asked me. And a lot of people have no fucking idea. And even me, the person that overthinks, overanalyzes, constantly is thinking of missions all day, I didn't have a fucking answer. And I was like, gosh dang it. And then we had a big, team development meeting, and I asked Jake, I asked Chris, and I think it even shocked y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't even know what to say. You're like, well, fuck, what is my personal mission?
Yeah.
And
I've never really thought about that. Or my values, right?
Yeah. And, I had to look in a perspective. There's a movie with Matthew McConaughey, Ghost of Girlfriend's Past.
Yeah.
And I twisted the movie. It's interesting because he's a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
But, he goes through this whole phase where he treated people a specific way, had impact, not a very good impact, and then all of a sudden they show him at his funeral, and
nobody's there.
One motherfucker showed up.
Oh yeah, one person.
And I took that perspective. I'm like, am I creating an impact that's good or bad? And that hit me, and I don't remember what age I was when it hit that, where I was like, okay, I was always, I always cared about people. You know me as a personality, like,
yeah,
I've always been that person. But how do I really add value to somebody's life? And when I thought about my mission was, the coolest part about my life was, one, being right there with Chris during all the waves and challenges and all these perspectives, and now seeing Chris smile for real.
True.
Like,
a lot more smiles these days.
You see somebody exist. It's very rare you see somebody live. And that shit fucked me up. Like, I don't know if very many people have witnessed those kinds of things and like truly been like, love their life or love what they're doing and then love their relationship, love everything around them. It's a very, very, very rare thing. Even with myself, I look myself in the mirror, but that mission came down to, okay, that started with one person, right? Then we have Jake, amazing human being. We call him Honest Abe, right?
Yeah, Honest Abe.
He's just a beautiful human being, okay? Yep. Seeing his life change.
Oh, it's crazy.
And him changing my life and helping me be more calm and helping me understand life even better, because he's amazing at that.
We also call him the mediator.
The mediator. He's just level. He's just cool, collected. He's understanding. He listens. And that's a value of a friend that I wish everybody was more like Jake.
Yeah.
And to watch both of those people impact my life, and then hopefully I've impacted theirs. If you look at life and your mission, I don't see it as a number. That number's there with those people. But if I can take 2 people and expand it to 4, to 8, to 100.
And then those people, 2, 4,
right,
8.
And it creates this just rapid, I like to consider it an anthill.
Yeah.
You drop something on the anthill and watch it fucking just poof.
Yeah.
Right? My goal and mission is to develop an anthill based on happiness of doing things you enjoy, that you get to take out the things you don't enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it creates a balance beam on like, okay, take those things out, put these things in, and your life will develop in a hopefully purpose-fulfilled life is really my mission.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And like, you build the fantasy factory, you build the phases to everything we're going to do.
Oh, it's going to be crazy.
And now people show up, and it's like they want to change their life for the right reason. Dude, I was listening to something the other day, and you wonder why the world's fucked up. Do you have any idea why the world's fucked up? Like, what's your opinion?
There's 100 things. I think it's probably just...
No, based on, I guess, why is the world fucked up based upon happiness and success? What's the difference, Chris?
Because people view happiness and success as a dollar sign for the most part.
What do you think the percentage of people think that?
Oh, it's the
Ridiculous.
majority for sure.
Right? So
yeah. I mean, that's what we're told from
So what I'm
kids.
about to dive into is I wanted your brain to really think on this, because what I was able to listen to the other day put my brain in so much of a perspective of, we're robots until you get around the right people that tell you to do things different, right? We go to school. We're taught for 6 years of our, elementary to middle school to high school, when you really develop between 7th grade and 12th grade. Mm-hmm. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to hopefully make good grades, be an athlete, go to college, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now I'm taking advice from people that aren't truly probably happy. Some are, right? And a lot of teachers feel purpose and fulfilled by helping, and maybe helping 1 kid, 2 kid. Most of the time, those kids don't give a fuck about the teachers.
Yeah.
Right? So like, most teachers I know are so irritated with these little fuckheads disrespecting them.
Yeah, that or the parents.
Right?
My mom hated the parents side of things.
Right? Like it's hard, life is not easy, but like what I'm saying is you have that many years where you're just getting advice on exactly what you're supposed to do in your life from people that aren't necessarily purposely have purpose or happy.
Yeah.
So then you go to high school, then you go to college, right? You get in debt of $100,000 to $200,000 in debt.
Yeah, we didn't get there with the debt. It's nuts.
Why are we doing this? The whole world's controlling, right?
Uh-huh.
So this perspective is go to high school, go to college, get in debt. You get out of school, you get a job for $60,000, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Now you're in debt. Oh, well, now I need a truck. Now I'm another in debt. Now I got to get a house because everybody tells me you got to get a house and you got to get married and you don't even know yourself yet.
Yep.
And then you turn into this thing where now you're
Kids.
$400,000, $600,000, $800,000 in debt.
Then you have a kid.
Yeah, and now you're paying for a kid. You're paying for your, to function the family. You forget about yourself, and now you're in debt. You're 35, 40 years old, and you feel like your life's over because you were forced and trapped because of a financial debt that you had to pay to life.
Yeah, and then you feel like you can't make a pivot because of all these responsibilities that are weighing on your shoulders, and it's essentially too late. It is.
And you're trapped, and now
Yeah.
you feel like you can't go do your dream, find your purpose, be fulfilled, and that's this fucked up thing with society, and that freaks me out.
Yeah.
And I guess it freaked me out before I even heard all that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't go to college.
Yeah.
And I also was in a position too where I didn't have a fucking choice.
I was so close to that scenario you just painted.
I know, and like that's why I get so passionate.
That's scary.
I know, and that's why I get so passionate and hype when I'm trying to hopefully maybe one word, maybe one sentence decides to make people question what everybody's doing.
Their current situation. Yeah. Forget everyone else. Just think about you and your situation. Are you happy? Are you waking up enjoying going to work every day or doing what you're doing, or is it fulfilling your life? Like, because if it's not, pivot. It's not too late. I mean, any age, any scenario, if you're not happy in life, change your fucking situation. Make tiny steps to get to that situation. It's temporary. Like
right.
Unhappiness and anxiety, depression, it's temporary. You can overcome those things.
But I think to overcome them, you have to take the responsibility to look yourself in the mirror. Why am I depressed?
Be honest.
Why do I have anxiety?
Yeah.
Why am I hurt in this situation?
Yeah.
And people close their eyes. I don't know if the camera you can see my eyes are closed, but like I had to analyze that shit in order to hopefully get healthier. And I look at it as a teeter-totter.
Yeah.
I had a fucked up client that annoyed me all the time. It's not worth my time.
Well, now there's 10,
Yeah, it's not worth my money. It's not worth my time. Boom, my happiness level went back up. I quit getting anxiety. I quit getting stressed. I'm not sleeping at night because I know this person that I'm working with is going to cause me, anxiety.
It's not worth taking
step away.
Yeah, time away from your life.
But that's the society telling you that, no, you have to stay in this position. And that's kind of the reason for this Dirty 30 podcast, guys, is like, Chris is sitting down, but the whole reason behind my life, Chris's life now, and hopefully the other people that are listening to this is don't let your comfort zone kill you. And that shit will kill you.
Yeah.
It
will. Yeah. It's dramatic. It sounds dramatic, but it's real. It's so real. Your comfort zone will kill you because you'll just sit in that comfort zone for the rest of your life until you actually are dead. And that's kind of the point of the quote is like, get out of your comfort zone. Step out. Take a risk. Do something you have general interest in and see if you can maybe make some money at doing it. I mean, get so good at something people have to pay you to do it. That's a quote you told me a long time ago, and that stuck with me long term. You get so good.
Fucking good at something.
Become irreplaceable.
People will pay you anywhere at any time. They will find you.
Yeah, they will find you. That's the thing is you don't have to go to them at that point. They'll just recognize it, and they'll be like, I got to have you.
And they'll write that check without blinking.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of been the motto now that I think about it, is just do the shit you don't want to do and then get so fucking good at it people find you. Like,
yeah,
we live by that.
Yeah.
And being good human beings, and here's the perspective that we want to really jump onto this, is we have a lot of friends, we have a lot of awesome people, and at first, you're going to get 10 no's.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But those no's are coming from people. If you take those no's of people and you go back and ask them the question, are you happy? What answer are you going to get?
No.
Right? You go ask the people, hey, I want to build this business. that have businesses, you're going to get 10 yeses.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because they know the fulfillment side of both sides of that fence. And that's kind of why we're wanting to do this podcast, is to show an example that you can do something different and go against the grain, and you'll hopefully, I'm not saying it's easy, because it's hard as fuck.
Yeah, no, and my past job compared to what I do currently, this is 10 times harder, but it's easier for me to do because I'm passionate about it. I have a general interest in it, and I wake up wanting to do this every single day. I mean, there hasn't been a single day where I wake up and I'm like, all right, fuck this. Hasn't happened in 3 years.
Pretty fucking crazy.
I don't think it's going away. And I think I'll hopefully find that in other things in my life as well. And one of those is kind of become yoga in a sense right now. It's like that has opened up a whole door to be able to impact other people that I never really thought about.
No, absolutely. I mean, we have, so guys, if y'all knew the vision board of what we're fucking doing, it's nuts.
Oh,
I mean,
it's insane.
Chris is doing yoga. I'm getting fucking pumped about house design. Like,
I mean, I'm pumped too. It's
guys,
just like
this caption of this post, I just want y'all to know, is I fucked it all up. The imperfections is what makes things perfect.
Yeah.
I want y'all to think about that line. I've said that for a long time. If you base things on perfect, you're never going to get where you're going to go on. But the imperfect part of people and imperfect part of things is what makes things perfect.
Yeah.
And when I sit inside this house in the studio and you see bullshit everywhere, and you see sheetrock, and you see cords and you screwed plywood together, the goal here is the word start. Okay? I broke down start the other day, and I could get my phone and kind of read these off. Okay?
Yeah.
But if you have, things based on S, what would they be?
Like, are you talking about words starting with S?
Yeah. That you would work out in a system that would make sense to start a business.
Oh God. I mean, that's a brain teaser right there on
It
the
is,
spot.
but I broke it down, and I'm like, holy shit, this all makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna drop that. My phone's down there, but I'm not gonna grab it. But like, when you start doing things like that, you'll actually realize how easy it is to start when you make a plan for it.
Yeah, you got to dream so big to where it's unrealistic, and then set that plan behind it to get to that goal, right? Those are words of Kayvon. Shout out Kayvon.
Absolutely. And then another perspective is like, what's your performa?
Yeah. I don't know. Got to think about that one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
Right? You have a performa in business. We talk about it every fucking day.
What is it? You tell me. Shit.
I have two.
What?
You have a performa based on business and a strategy to make sure the end goal makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
But why the fuck do we not make a performa on our life?
Because a lot of times we don't think about it.
We're all data driven. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so hard for people to go, okay, here's my end goal. Just like business, if you took the same exact business strategies to certain projects, certain things, and implemented those same strategies that you do in business, but for some reason we don't think or question our life.
That's true.
And like Rob Beardsley, awesome human being, he said something to this the other day doing a masterclass that was, it's not the fucking answers, it's the questions.
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting in the chair and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Robert?
Yeah.
And then he broke it down. Solutions are created from questions. Efficiency is created from questions, and purpose is created from questions.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool to hear him say that, because that was one thing I learned in college getting my degree, is like the people who are the most successful ask the best questions. And I remember sitting back in class, and like this person would ask a question and be like, holy shit, that's a really good question. And they were also the smartest person in the class.
So let me ask you this, is every question, what did our teacher say? No question is stupid.
Oh yeah, no question is stupid. That's false.
But me over here, I'm scared to ask questions now. And as a kid, I'm like,
Yeah.
the fuck? Like, I have all these questions in my head.
Like, I got really stupid questions. But the thing is, other people have stupid questions that need answering too, right?
Well,
So
what's stupid and what's smart, right?
there's no in between. It's just, are you asking the questions? Period. And then your quality of questions will get better the more questions you ask.
Right.
Because you're thinking more about it. You're more in tune with whatever it is that's being projected to you, to come back with like, oh, I need a little bit more clarification on this. Ooh, my brain's going to a different level when you said this. How can I get there? Kind of thing. And you just will constantly refine your questions until you get all these answers, and your life is changing constantly.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, let me ask you this. What is your goal when you're 30, bro?
Oof. My goal when I'm 30, I would like to own a piece of property. Just to
Let's start with personal then business.
I feel like that's personal, right?
No.
Well, like to live in. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah, I guess I'm saying 30 as in like what you see yourself, like what's your vision when you're 30 years old?
it's hard for me. So like the difference between me and Weston is like he's a visionary. He's looking very long term. I have a hard time looking long term because it kind of overwhelms me. I can recognize it, but I'm more focused on like next month, next year kind of thing. So if it were me looking at 30, I would. It's tough to think about. I'm in a
I only
relationship.
say that. I'm gonna stop him for 2 seconds because what Chris has done in 3 years of his life is incredible.
I never would have thought I'd
It's
be here in
it's
3 years.
light speed. By
Yeah,
the time you take the mindset, you start with that. Second of all, you start, oh wait, he's editing documentaries in 3 years. So like you're light speed at your age, you have a fulfillment, you have purpose. I don't know what's in store for you when you're 30, bro.
I have no idea. I just kind of put my head down, and it's like, what's the next challenge?
And that's
Hit
the
it.
thing that
What's
I'm
the
learning
next
now.
challenge? Hit it.
Right?
You
Like
know,
let me ask you this. Do you know what your hand looks like?
my hand?
Your hand.
No, no clue.
But how many times have you seen your hand?
Thousands.
So for me, I have to start observing, bro, life for a second.
Yeah,
If I run with my head down, I don't get to enjoy wins.
that's
I
true.
don't get to see the opportunity right in front of me sometimes. And like
Yeah,
it's as simple as looking at your hand, bro.
that's my caveat, I guess.
Like look at the map on your hand.
Yeah, yeah. I
I've
mean,
seen it. I don't know how many times I've seen it, but I can't draw it. That fucks with me.
yeah,
But then I go outside and I'm like, or I look in here and I'm like, damn, have I noticed this? Have I appreciated that? And like, I don't do that very well.
yeah,
You know me.
yeah. I mean, realistically, when I'm 30, I would like to be in a place where I can really impact people on a large scale. So I would like to have a platform where I can project all of these. I mean, essentially just like growing this podcast to reach more people, because I feel like I can share my struggles and my story of weight loss recovery, going from a miserable 9 to 5 situation to doing what I love to do every single day and everything in between. And then also everything I'm going to be learning over the next 3 years. I would like to have the ability to impact more people. So maybe that's more so setting a goal to be more vocal and get out there in front of people's faces. And like, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's hard for me to think about long-term goals like that. I have random little things, but at the end of the day, I don't know what my life's going to look like in 3 years. I just know that what I'm doing right now, I want to get even better at it every single day. Like that doesn't stop, whether it be yoga, video production, editing, building relationships, and scaling the team within. I would like to just be able to impact more people in a positive way.
Right.
That's my overall goal.
So this is funny because I asked Chris what 3 years looks like. I asked myself, Chris says I'm a long-term guy. This post is designed for this specific thing. 10,950 days. What is that, Chris?
That's the days you've lived, right?
That's the days I've lived.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, average time between a male, before they die or at their death is 77 years as a male, and that equals out to 27,105 days.
Okay. Total in their life.
And they're total in their life.
All right.
Okay. So, me being that long driven person of these goals, I have 17,000 days, and I have 17,155 days to do it.
That puts things into perspective.
Fucks me up.
Yeah.
And
Is
that's not guaranteed, bro. So this is where my brain just explodes. And not everybody knows me on this level as Chris does. So like, you have to understand, I see things at a long distance, but I am sprinting as fast as possible to make it more efficient to get it done even faster.
Yeah.
And that's also part of my problem. But when I look at that number, 17,155, puts everything in perspective between my business, my relationships, my runs outside, my food I'm eating. Am I doing it to my best ability? Because I've already lived 10,950 days, and I haven't even done it right in my perspective. I've hopefully done it right, and I want to believe I have, but for my big dreams that I have, I'm not even fucking close.
Yeah.
Like, you know my dreams.
Yeah.
I'm not even fucking close to those big, long dreams.
Yeah. I think it's important to evaluate that for sure. But I think it's also important to understand that all of those mistakes you've made have let you come to this moment where you have that realization of like, I've got this many days left in my life. And if I want to hit these goals, I need to make a change. I need to adapt. I need to do this more. I need to do this better. And I need to allocate my time better so that I'm not so stressed out all the time, but I'm still accomplishing the things that I want to do.
Right.
Right. You're living life to the fullest and pursuing your dreams at the same time. I talk to Weston about this all the time. I love the dips we have in our business. I love the slow times because that's our chance to improve our systems, our communication, everything in between. We get a chance to sit back and analyze. And I think that's what happens in a lot of bad situations is because you have to stop, you have to slow down, and you have to think about what's going on and not get so overwhelmed with the problem. Focus on the issue, right?
Right, and then create the solution, 98 and 2.
Right. Create the focus on the solution versus the problems. The
Right.
problems come up. You don't need to put your focus on the problem and think, fuck, this, that. That's all messed up. That's all that. How can I solve this problem right here?
And fastest way.
In the fastest, most efficient way. And that
takes a team. That doesn't take one person thinking they can do it, right?
Yeah, it's not individual.
You know, the two things I'm really trying to understand now is patience and impatience. What do those mean to you?
I mean, patience is something I wish I had more of, and impatience probably takes over too much of my life.
See, I would disagree with you.
Why?
I would say you're 10 times more patient than me, and I'm actually extremely impatient, which is also why the duo works very well in our business.
Yeah, true. I guess everyone can have a little bit more patience is why I say that.
But did you think about, like, nobody remembers the small business. Everybody remembers the fucking Michael Jordans, the fucking CEOs of these companies. If you analyze every one of those people, they're the most impatient people.
Yeah, true. They are.
They are.
Yeah, they go psycho.
Yeah, and it's like, how do I balance the two?
Yeah.
Or do I balance the two? Or do I just keep my gift? And, like, the next phase of this conversation to me is gifts. How do you find a gift? And how do you make the gift happen? It's two different things. I'm not God-given ability to go play basketball in the NBA at 6'3". I'm not giftedly talented in that way. I'm gifted in other things that God decided to give me.
Yeah.
But how do you find them? And then how do you structure them? And then how do you be great at them?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. People got to figure out what they're good at. And we've had this conversation too. Is like, Chris, what are the 3 things that you're fucking amazing at? That's the question nobody asks.
Yeah, the 3 things I'm good at is, 1 is problem solving. I will say, love a good problem. 2, you would say patience. I don't know. That's my best quality. 3, I don't know. You could probably tell me more. Creative. Yeah, I forget that sometimes.
Right, like Chris is beyond creative. And the craziest perspective is like me and Chris have flip-flopped in many ways.
Yeah. So like I've fed off his creativity and figured out how to become more creative. And I guess it's always within you, right? It's just how do you access it? Weston helped me access my creativity.
Your gift.
Yeah. My gift. Yeah. I didn't know I had it.
This is what I'm getting
I
at.
hated shooting photos. I hated filming. If Weston asked me to shoot a photo, I'd be like, nah, I don't really want to do that right now.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's all I do.
No, and this is what I'm trying to explain to you. You finding that gift changed your life.
Yeah.
And you had the tools around you to actually make it work.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have those gifts. I just don't think they build the system and the circle. What's my favorite one on? I can't say what's my favorite. What's one of my favorite quotes that has to do with the circle?
Has to do with the circle?
Yeah.
God. Weston.
It's by Nipsey Hussle, guys. This is one of the best quotes you'll ever hear in your life.
Send it.
Okay? If your circle doesn't inspire you, it's not a circle. It's a fucking cage.
Oh, yeah. That is a good one.
Guys, get you a fucking circle.
Yeah.
Have accountability.
Yeah.
And watch your life change.
Absolutely.
It's that simple.
Your frequency is what you frequently see. Shout out to Jesse Lee, Boss Lee.
Guys, Jesse Lee, I know we're running off stage a little bit, but I want to bring her on stage. Amazing human being. She's going through stage 4 cancer right now. She's been super inspiring to me and Chris. We just did a massive project with her, and just hearing her story, hearing Tony's story. Shout out Tony. It's so interesting to be around circles.
Yeah.
You start in one circle, the circle gets bigger. It turns into the Olympic symbol. Guys, it's that easy. You get yourself and you build a tight circle, people fuck with your circle. That circle expands and it looks like the Olympics logo.
Yeah.
And now you have a full-blown goddamn arsenal, and anywhere at any time you get to dive in that circle and ask those questions.
Yeah.
And get those answers.
Yeah.
Have those mentors, and get those life advice. Like, people fuck with your circle, and you'll get anything. People give you everything if they see you working hard and seeing what you're doing.
Yeah, they buy into what you're doing, and they have the same goals and the values. They align. You become dangerous in the end. Your group, your circle becomes dangerous, and you guys can do anything dangerous. You can do anything together.
That's part of Chris's last mission statement.
Yeah. We'll dive into that more later, but
yeah, no, and guys, like, this is all for fun. Like, I know we're super serious. I love these deep talks because my exclusive Shift 30, guys, which I'm going to release the video as well, is very interesting because it's put me in a place of discipline. And I think about the most successful people in my life as discipline. Guys, Tom Brady's not, any better than any other quarterback. He's better at everybody at discipline.
well, my girlfriend would disagree, but
I mean, trust me, there's
joking.
faster quarterbacks.
Yeah, there's way faster quarterbacks.
There's people that throw harder than him.
Yeah.
It's his discipline to get better at the craft of shit that nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
That motherfucker goes home and studies more film than you could possibly imagine.
Fucking smart.
Smarter.
Yeah.
Discipline to those crafts. Like,
Smarter, not harder.
That's why he's the GOAT.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? So
he's a coach on the field holding a ball.
Yeah, and I had an interesting conversation. One of my best friends, Bailey Polk.
Yeah.
Golly, I wish I could be more like Bailey Polk.
I wish he could. I think he wishes he could be more like you too. It's like it's vice versa, right?
He's never. I've never really thought of it that way. I don't know if he ever sees it that way, and I don't care if he does, because he's the reason I have hope. He's the reason I can stay positive, because, guys, and he'll be on an episode sooner than later, and it'll be a very, very emotional episode. But, like, 2 brothers passed away. His parents passed away in the same year.